Welcome to another edition of Aegis, Biz, and Tech, our monthly podcast. Today we're joined by Brad Swanson with Florida Internet and Television. Welcome, Brad.
Blake, thanks so much for having us on, man.
My pleasure. We'd like to start with a little joke. So,
is it holiday themed?
It is definitely holiday themed. The ornament got addicted to Christmas.
Why?
It was hooked on trees its whole life.
Oh, that's so good, Blake. One of your best ever. I love it.
That is pretty solid. That is pretty amazing. We are lucky to have Brad with us today. Brad and I have known each other for almost 30 years. And to think about a three-decade friendship, that's pretty spectacular.
It's pretty amazing. I even have some photographic proof. And for your audience out there,
Proof of life?
What they can see is this is back when we had dark hair and we were young and virile young people skiing. And now my back hurts.
I had
you're
more hair back then.
You're good. So, yes, we've known each other for a long time.
That was an excellent spring break in Aspen, Colorado, back in the good old days. Well, in more recent times, Brad has taken over Florida Internet and Television. And let's start with a little recap.
Sure.
When you started with the organization, it wasn't called Florida Internet and Television.
Nope.
So tell us what it was like when you stepped into that role and what that rebranding looked like. And we'll go from there.
Sure. So I stepped in the role in July 11th, 2016. The organization was called Florida Cable Telecommunications Association. It's quite a long bit of words and syllables there. And we represented what is the modern era of your internet and television and cable provider, and two completely different industries, if you will, from what the title says versus what we're doing today. So today we're called Florida Internet and Television, and when your everyday person thinks about what do I want my internet to work and I want my TV to work. They don't think of their telecommunications company or their cable company. They might still call it cable, but it's so much more than that. So we moved away from two words that might have been hot in the late 80s or early 90s and really kind of spoke towards a much more base level of technology. But now it's so interactive and it's amazing and it's dynamic, and everybody just still calls it, when they're watching their phone, they're saying, I'm watching it on my TV. It's their phone, or they're watching it in their house, and it's just high tech and it's the internet, and it's amazing. So.
Well, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
With the new name. You all have a massive footprint in the state, and congratulations on that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we represent roughly 160,000 jobs in the state of Florida. A lot of those are direct jobs, but a ton of those are, I say a lot of them, 7,000 of those are direct jobs for my members, but the rest are a lot of them are small business providers that provide all those services to make cable work in the state of Florida. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about technology.
Okay.
You and I collaborated on a piece for FloridaPolitics.com last year on net neutrality.
Yes.
So a lot of people were scared on what that would bring to the table. Fast forward approximately a year later, I don't see any of those concerns as a reality. What do you see?
Yeah, so you're spot on. I mean, it really was a national PR campaign, and it was really about who's got access to data. As we know, the big guys, Facebook and Google, want every ounce of data out there. They were really in tight with the previous administration at the FCC, and so they were pushing for this net neutrality thing, and they were saying the internet would collapse if they didn't get what they wanted and all these other things. And sure enough, all we did was go back to the Bill Clinton bipartisan era that built the internet and has provided it to more people on the globe faster than anybody. And once we put those old rules into place called light touch, the internet still works today just like it did before the big scare of net neutrality.
It is tough to break the internet. I think the only people that can break the internet are the Russians. They just created their own.
Yeah, I don't think they're breaking it. I think they continue to use it to try and do what they're going to do, like everybody does. But that's the beauty of the internet, is it's amazing.
Now this year we collaborated on another piece for Peter and FloridaPolitics.com on 5G.
Yes.
So Are we there in North Florida? Are we 5G?
No.
What's that timeline look like?
No. So 5G and 10G, right? So you've got 5G is the fifth generation of cell phone technology.
And how many people don't realize that? So I'm glad you brought that up, because people think that's 5 gigs.
Right. So it's the fifth generation of how our cell phones download data, and you can watch this rich, amazing text on your phone. The trick is you have to have a lot more antennas around you to make that data go back and forth from that antenna. They need to be closer, kind of at city level. So what you'll see on 5G deployment is you'll see it happening within our most metro areas because there's more places to hang these micro antennas, if you will.
Right.
And from our member offering, we have 10G, which is 10 gigabit speed, and they're going to start deploying that roughly in the next 24 months and start rolling that out. And they basically figured out how to send data in opposite ways on the same pipe at the same time. So it immediately turbocharged all the existing fiber out there, all the existing coax. And so our 10G underpinning is what's required, as well as the 5G antennas out there by your telephone companies and everybody to go deploy that. And the combination of that is still probably, they're starting to roll it out. It's going slow. But the whole industry will be there beginning in about 24 months. People will start to see it in major markets.
Well, this is the time of year you certainly start hearing people talking about trends and what are we going to see in 2020. And 5G is certainly one of those things.
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes who comes up with these phrases like the Internet of Things is one of those ones that have stuck around.
It's horrible branding, in my opinion, but it's what they call it. So
it goes all the way back to 1999.
Right.
It stuck around that long.
Right.
But one of the worst I just heard was the democratization of IT.
How old is that?
I think it goes back 2 years, but I'm starting to hear it a lot. And you think, what does that mean? Does that mean, freedom from your technology?
Here's the deal: is everybody meets globally to set the standards, so all the toys work and they can talk to each other. So I don't know about democratization. If you're talking about these companies from all over the world getting together to lay out standards so that the stuff works, that's one of the hardest things the whole industry has to deal with. Is I might invent something amazing, you might invent something that would be great, but if we can't agree on how they all talk to each other, it's not going to work. But yes, it ends up getting to every level of person on the globe, and I guess that's the democratization of technology.
Well said, man. Well said.
You're really making me articulate on this thing. It's painful.
You did fabulous.
I'm a mumbler.
So let's talk about this. So you're in your office, productivity on your phone or iPad. What kind of app changes, or what app specifically changes the game for you on a day-to-day basis? There's one you love more than others?
Sure. So in the business world, my number one app is literally my texting app, right? Because I can crank messages out on that regardless of what you're doing. You can be in the middle of a meeting, you can be on a conference call, and you can still be communicating. So really, you could say it's your calendar, you could say it's some nifty, awesome, amazing app, but literally the ability to communicate with people silently while you're doing other things is one of the best apps out there. So for me, it's just the standard old texting app.
Yeah, I remember like the MSN Messenger back in the day on the screen.
Well, now you can do it through a million other apps. You can do it through Insta, Facebook, you name all these other apps. Now I've got too many messaging apps, so WhatsApp and you name it, and group text. It's nuts, but I love it. Yeah, I'm addicted to it.
Yeah, I got a Facebook notification this morning from a client who knows my phone number, knows my email address, knows my phone number. I'm like, why are you reaching out to me here? But if you ignore those communication protocols, you're missing the boat. So yeah, you're right. It's a crowded space. One of my favorite apps that I really enjoy, I have a tailgate group at the University of Florida. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
We spend a lot of money on meals and beverages and hotel accommodations, Airbnbs, whatnot. Right. It's an app called Cost Split.
Oh, I love that.
So you're able to put every user in there and put what you spend on what by date, and then assign a tab, if you will, virtually. Check it out. Cost Split.
Wow, I love it. It's like Venmo on steroids. So,
it is, and I'm in no way affiliated with Cost Split. This is not a paid endorsement.
No, but they should pay you now.
They should.
Okay.
They should.
All
right, Brad, you've got a great footprint, not just with the internet and communication community in Florida. You've got a great footprint in the political world. So I've seen you in action, and you work with a lot of high-profile elected officials.
Yeah.
So this question will be very unloaded. Who has a good sense of humor out there in our elected space?
Well, that's a great question because, in this space,
because you weren't sure where I was going with that, were you?
Just about everybody in this space is okay. I might have had a hint that one was coming, but in this space, everyone's hyper charismatic, right? So everybody's ultra outgoing. Everyone that works in the process, from lobbyists to association leaders to the elected officials to people that run campaigns. I mean, they're all hyper extroverts. So everybody's ready with a joke. But the ones that rise above, you literally are kind of like stunned because so many people are worried about their brand and their persona and their perception. But the ones that just let their freak flags fly are the most approachable, and they're great. So Senator Pasadomo is hysterical. She's an attorney from Naples, but you spend 6 seconds with her, and she's telling jokes, and she's great. Sam Killebrew from Winter Haven is one of my oldest friends, but he's got a raging sense of humor, and he's always in the back of the room quietly telling you a joke. Right. Jimmy Petronas, CFO of the state of Florida, hysterical guy, so down to earth, always ready to laugh.
His Twitter presence is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, he's strong. Senator Bean, hysterical from Jacksonville. Amber Mariano, young legislator out of Pasco. She's super fun, and her Twitter feed is hysterical. So there's so many. The list literally I could go on. There's 160 legislators. I could probably.
Does Brad Drake make the list?
Oh, Brad's
pretty fun guy.
Brad's amazing. He's hysterical, and his Twitter feed is really good. So I recommend people follow.
And everybody here in Tallahassee, Mayor Daley does a good job.
John's great. John and Ginny are great, but John's certainly out there hitting it on his social media feeds for sure. But he's just a funny guy in general. Great guy too.
So let's talk community here in Tallahassee. The charitable organizations that we get to work with to fundraise for. Which ones jump out in your mind?
The top one for me that's near and dear to my heart is Young Life. I was in Young Life in high school. All my kids did Young Life. Yeah, did Bible study back then. I'm not sure if any of it took. I really hope it does for my eternal soul. But that somebody else is going to be the judge of that. But amazing organization, amazing board. Emmett Reed, Chip Williams sit on that board. Joel Kennedy is their area director. Amazing group of folks.
I went out to their pheasant hunt last year.
Yeah.
Emmett had invited us.
I was out there, and amazing fundraiser, and just a great organization that helps kids to see that side of faith in a very kind of positive and, if you will, religion neutral environment. So it's approachable. It's amazing. The other one, that you introduced me to is Treehouse. That organization is incredible. I mean, the work that they're doing with kids is bar none some of the most amazing results that this town is getting. And then their Fast Cars and Mason Jars fundraiser is just such a fun way to introduce people to that charity, and then frankly, get involved, which is great.
Yeah, I was involved with 10 years directly on the board, and then now just as a supporter. But to see Slater Bayless and Jimmy Fasig really take ownership of that organization and push it into 2020.
Well, Slater, probably a judgment call, 50-50 on that one. No, I'm just kidding. He's an amazing guy, amazing leader, and Jimmy's just great in the community as well, and a great partner to that organization.
Moving on. So I wrote a column this year about golf. I was talking to Jay at the Chamber about his journal on golf, and I was looking at various courses, and then I had the epiphany. I had the awakening, and I said, or I heard in my head, "Move over, Swanson. I'm driving." The iconic line from Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack.
In the boat scene.
Yeah.
Move over, Swanson. I'm driving.
I wrote how your father was a producer on that film, and if you could share a little bit about that. As I looked up his credits on what he's worked on, the Rocky film, Caddyshack, that's legendary, epic. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my dad was larger than life. Love him, miss him, but his passion for films was his lifelong ambition. So he got in the business in '63, and by 1971 or two, he was helping Sylvester Stallone with the script because he had written a multi-million-dollar film, and the studios had said you get $1 less than $1 million if you can do it. And so my dad was doing the budget as he was making recommendations to Stallone to change like the ice skating scene from 400 extras to just them and the Zamboni driver, a little cheaper to shoot that way. So did that. Caddyshack was incredible. Me and my two sisters, we were on the set the whole time. Hurricane David rolled through. We had to go out there. There were apartments on site where all the actors were staying. So had to drive out and check on everybody. Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, they were all around. Just great folks, a lot of fun. They blew up the golf course. If you've seen the A&E special, it's probably the best description of how the whole film went down, good and bad.
Right.
And they took the owners of the course off property for lunch the day they were going to blow up the course because they didn't want them to do that. They shut down air traffic into Fort Lauderdale Airport because they thought it was some sort of explosion or something really bad, and it was. But Boom Boom Johnson, one of the famous special effects guys from South Florida, really loaded up the dynamite and let it rock. He also did
Back when they really made movies.
Miami Vice, right, and they were dangerous. There was no green screen back then. It was on. So there's Caddyshack.
That's amazing, and having that connection with the film versus how someone else might see it. Who's your favorite actor or actress in the film?
In the film, that's it's got to be Bill Murray. I mean, he's so funny. I mean, Chevy's amazing. I mean, Bill Murray was only there for a few days on set. Like he shot all that stuff. I want to say in like 4 days, and Chevy was there the duration of the shot. But Bill Murray I've seen him in Tampa when he comes to play golf and things like that, and he is just a great guy, but he just flips it on and he's hysterical. So there's a million more stories I could probably tell, but not appropriate for podcasts or radio or
Understood.
TV. So
we are PG-13.
That's right.
Our official rating.
Ish. Right.
I understand recently you visited Israel.
Yeah.
One of my first international treks with Aegis was to go to Israel as the North American representative,
right?
Which I felt pretty honored. Obviously, our
Blake,
country's a little bigger than Florida.
You're a pretty important person. Of course, you're going to be the first North American representative to visit Israel. So,
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But they invited us to Pinap headquarters because if you didn't know, Brad, Matt King, executive director, and audience, Spam was invented in Israel. So one of the first anti-spam appliances to come out of the country was Israel. And they invited me over. Our customer service representative had an Uzi at all times, which the country's ready to go at any time because they refer to themselves as the nice house in the bad neighborhood. That's what the Tel Aviv professor described the country as. Yeah. And when I looked over across the Red Sea one night in Eilat, I said, "What are all those Jeeps?" And I showed my American ignorance in all its glory. And he said, "Those aren't Jeeps, sir. Those are tanks, and that's Jordan." So in 60 seconds or less, tell us about what you were doing there recently.
Yeah, so we were there with a national group called the American Legislative Exchange Council, and we support legislation that is both pro-Israel. Several of the global anti-Semitic, anti-Israel groups are trying to make Israel put stars on their products, very reminiscent of the 30s and 40s and the discrimination they faced then. So thankfully, Florida's legislature and many others have passed anti-BDS legislation, which is anti-Israel branding, if you will, of their products. So while we were there, we saw the Golan. There were rocket attacks. So that was amazing. We saw Jerusalem. And there's an app for that, oddly enough. We all downloaded an app that showed where the rocket attacks were happening and when. And
that's probably a little more helpful than my cost split app.
Yeah, no, I think
not to make light of it.
I think they're both awesome in the right environment, and that app certainly was. I don't know if it was awesome, but it was kind of like getting a direct feed on everything you had no control over. So thankfully, we were pretty far north and away from all of the conflict. But you spoke about it. The persistent vigilance against folks that want to wipe them off the map is one of the biggest takeaways that I took from children to women and men and everybody at all ages. They are all perpetually vigilant about the enemies of Israel, and they're fulfilling biblical prophecy. It was an absolute blessing to go. Everybody there was beautiful to get to know, and I can't wait to go back.
Awesome. Well, as we close today, you're cooking dinner tonight. What is the Brad Swanson ultimate recipe for our audience?
Well, the ultimate recipe that if I'm cooking is a chicken piccata or that one I'm good at, but I really love my sugar and I love my desserts. So I'm a pecan pie and a bread pudding guy. I can make those dishes to where you will indulge yourself until you literally pass out with a sugar coma, and it's amazing.
And what do you pair with this? What's the ultimate beverage and or wine?
It's tough. Pretty much any bourbon or scotch or
so bourbon, pecan pie, and chicken piccata. It's game on.
Oh, you mean in the dish itself, or you're drinking it separately?
No, we're pairing it separately.
Okay, yeah. No, I think bourbon with pecan pie is always appropriate, and I think I think bread pudding and a really heavy red wine will give you the best night's sleep of your life. Now, the next morning you'll wake up and you won't be able to move your wrists or your ankles because of all the badness you've ingested, but it was worth it.
You must pay for all things. Well, thank you, Brad, for joining us today. It's been an outstanding dialogue, an outstanding conversation. As I said earlier, congratulations on your success with Florida Internet and Television.
Wow.
Thank you all for listening today. Tune in next time for another edition of Biz and Tech as we begin 2020. Thanks for your partnership. Thank you, Tallahassee. Thank you, Florida. We'll see you next time.